The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 109. Gnawing on Bones. From a brief couple of sentences, Tang Fan's mind was like a storm of waves, though that didn't show on his surface, and he instantly figured many things out. Clearly, this had been a trap all along. It could even be said that after Peng Hua had recommended him for being an East Palace tutor and he had agreed to it, he had already stepped into this trap. It was a trap not only targeting him but the crowned prince as well. Currently, from an outsider's point of view, there had to be one amongst Tang Fan and Lin Ying that was a liar. Lin Ying had been appointed as orator ever since the prince had entered the cabinet for study. Over the years, the prince's teachers had rotated, yet he had always been by his side, and due to his dependability and reliability, he deeply held the prince's confidence. Even though the prince had a special bond with Tang Fan, he trusted Lin Ying, too. The evilness in this trap was that the one who had laid it out not only wanted to divide the relationship between the crowned prince and Tang Fan, making the former think the latter to be undeserving of trust, but through him, the prince would also be dragged into the water, suffering the emperor's dislike. What was the problem with the Wu to Zhenguan period? Why would the emperor intentionally tell Lin Ying to skip over it? Tang Fan was quite familiar with the mirror, and quickly thought of the key issue therein. In the 6th month of the final year of Wu, not long after the establishment of the Great Tang Dynasty, there had come a coup d'état, following which had been the rebellion of Suan Wu Gate that all knew of. If the emperor didn't wish for the tutors to teach in detail from those years, then it ought to be because of this portion of history. Still, for that coup d'état, regardless of whether it was a new or old Tang book or the mirror, historians generally held a positive assessment in their comprehension of Taizong of Tang. There was no taboo to be touched upon. Why would the emperor not let it be taught? After thinking about it, Tang Fan felt that the issue might be Taizong's slaying of his brother. Those thoughts were not more than sparks streaking past the mind. If he wanted to get past the obstacle before him, he couldn't reveal the slightest bit of panicky emotions, as that would not only do nothing helpful but make it easy for others to misunderstand. He collected himself. Answering Your Majesty, this subject dares to pledge to my ancestors and the world itself that I never heard Orator Lin say such a thing. Furthermore, when I was giving lessons, Orator Lin was attending at his side. If there was an issue, why had he not brought it up at that time? In this day and age, it was extremely serious to pledge to one's ancestors and world. Hearing this, the emperor looked at Lin Ying. Your Majesty, this subject also dares to pledge to my ancestors and the world that I did indeed explain this to Teacher Tang. However, when this segment was mentioned earlier, I happened to have taken a leave of sickness. The Court of Education has record of such. This was just great. One said he had, one said he hadn't, both had been present, and both had pledged heavy oaths. Who was actually telling the truth, and who was lying, was something only a heaven-sent genius would know. However, if Tang Fan became seated with the accusation of deliberately violating a taboo and not taking the emperor's words seriously, then bore the charge of beguiling the crowned prince, it would not only be him that would be out of luck but the prince would suffer the effects, too. The Wan group would be given an opportunity, and those close to the prince would believe that Tang Fan had implicated the prince, inevitably coming to hate him to the bone. Thinking up such, in spite of Tang Fan's calmness, he knew that this present situation was wholly disadvantageous to him. He imperceptibly raised his head, gaze flickering across everyone's faces, from Lin Ying's calm, to the prince's uncertainty and lack of sureness on who to believe, to the unhappy emperor. Quickly taking his line of sight back, he cupped his hands. Your Majesty, those in the know was aware of the truth themselves, but only Orator Lin and I were on scene at the time. Who is right and who is wrong is on the basis of conscience, and more wrangling about it will do nothing. However, this subject is confused about one thing. Please clarify, Your Majesty. Speak. I am unsure of what is taboo in the 7 years of Wu to the 1st year of Zhenguan. Please elaborate. Having biased thoughts, The emperor's tone was naturally poor. We ask you this. Taizong committed the incident of Suanwu Gate, but this did not hinder his monarchy. Have you ever said that to the prince? Yes. Then what are you still blubbering for? We willed for the tutors to bypass this section of the mirror precisely because of the Suanwu Gate incident. Taizong had no choice, but that was ultimately his brother. Is you saying this to the prince, not you deliberately having the heart for instigation, implying that he should strike first so as to not be bound by his brother later. There was no issue with the Suanwu Gate incident in and of itself, it was just an ordinary historical fact. Although that regent had had a slight defect to him, the whitewashing of successive historians had made this not a big deal. Whenever anyone lectured about history, they would generally not skip over it on purpose. And yet, rot was afoot. A few days ago, Consort Wan had suddenly become interested in reading history, so she had people find books for her, then put together tales to be told for her to hear after interpretation, chatting to pass the time. When Chenghua had come to visit her, she had happened to be listening to the section about Taizong, and she said to him, "Carnage at Suanwu Gate, brothers destroying each other, to the end, it is nothing pretty. The prince is young and of unset nature. If someone uses history as a mirror to deliberately mislead him, he will inevitably go down a wayward path. Tales like this would best be taught less, and the tutors should be made to make more anecdotes about filial brotherhood and respect." It had to be said that in Chenghua's eyes, Consort Wan had not a thing bad about her, and whatever she said had reason to it, even if it really didn't. He had been deeply convinced by her, agreeing, then had given Lin Ying the order to have the East Palace tutors skip over several sections of content in the mirror. If the emperor hadn't given the order, Tang Fan teaching it would have been fine. Those ignorant made no crime. However, as the emperor clearly had, Tang Fan had thus secretly opposed him, disregarding imperial orders. This was called knowing something was a crime, yet doing it anyways, and harboring unfathomable schemes, a first-class offense. To speak of this matter with brief finality, if the father completely trusted his son, trouble wouldn't be stirred up so easily like this. Sadly, the talk on the father's pillow was too strong. Compared to Lady Wan, the prince really was just a son. The most terrible thing about this was that the emperor had no shortage of sons. And, to tell the truth, his favorite child was not this current crowned prince but both of his older brothers that had died young. One had been born from Consort Wan but had passed before he had reached his first birthday, not even having the time to get his big name. The premature death of the son had left a deep-set wound in the emperor's heart, and he believed that if the child still lived, he would definitely be a peerlessly heroic crowned prince, the most outstanding successor. The other one was Crowned Prince Daogong. The child had also once had the emperor's high expectations, as could be seen from the fact that he had been appointed as the crowned prince at the age of 2, but he hadn't been able to keep him, either. Therefore, the current crowned prince was truly apprehensive and could have no fun, forced to face daily traps that had been dug out in wait for him to jump down into them, and the slander of prigs. What was happening right now was no more than a change of tricks. Someone outside was sorting out Tang Fan, but their ultimate, actual target was still the prince. Tang Fan solemnly cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, please retract your statement about this subject instigating and beguiling. I dare not bear it. I spoke of Suanwu Gate precisely for it to be a warning to His Highness to have love for his brothers and respect for his parents, and that there is not a bit of similarity between him and Taizong of Tang. When Taizong had not yet ascended, he was only the second prince, while the crowned prince above him was undeserving of the name. His Highness is the eldest son, has been dubbed the crowned prince by you for going on 10 years, and he deserves his name, as he is known throughout the realm. How could he ever imitate Suanwu Gate's incident? Only someone with errant thoughts would decide to place the incident upon the prince's head to strike him first, because in the midst of framing this subject, the prince has also been framed as unrighteous. Please have wisdom, Your Majesty." Impudent. The emperor was furiously angry. Tang Fan's words undoubtedly held the implication that someone was slandering to his face, but the one who had spoken had been Consort Wan. How could he tolerate anyone saying that she was wrong? Father Emperor, quell your anger, the prince said anxiously. Teacher Tang was only speaking thoughtlessly in a moment of panic. Ever since he became an official, he has repeatedly solved bizarre cases, and has an amazing political voice. He is not someone who harbors unfathomable motives. Please, Father Emperor, be magnanimous. You must not bicker with him. He was no imbecile. Had he still not been able to tell who was actually telling the truth and who was lying between Lin Ying and Tang Fan, then him being the crowned prince would be in vain. His words had minute efficacy. The emperor was truly appalled by Tang Fan's statements, not only because the latter had laid his thoughts bare, but because he had spoken poorly of his favorite woman. Tang Fan had been forced to do so, however. If he didn't speak loudly and with an impassioned attitude to indicate his standpoint, he would only attract even worse suspicion. In any case, he had made the prince believe him to be innocent. The emperor called in his attendant, pointing at Tang Fan. Oust him from the palace. We never want to see him again. Panicking, the prince quickly took some steps forward. Father Emperor, hear what this son has to say. The man looked at him. After hearing of Suanwu Gate, what were your thoughts, crowned prince? No matter how unmatched the heroics of Taizong of Tang was, Suanwu Gate was nothing but brothers destroying each other. It was nothing pleasant, the prince answered automatically. When learning history, it is used as a mirror to distinguish right from wrong, not to copy and blindly follow. That is exactly what Teacher Tang taught me. Please know, Your Majesty, that was indeed my intent, Tang Fan picked up. Whether in Tang's stories or the mirror as written by Lord Sima, there were an inexhaustible number of disasters during this time period that had stemmed from brothers fighting amongst each other. Examples would be the calamity of Emperor Wen of Sui's 2 sons, and Emperor Jing of Han's rebellion of the 7 states, which historians do not shun. Even if this subject did not teach the prince about the Suanwu Gate incident, when we speak of such things from now on, would we be able to avoid every possible instance of it? Historians write history precisely to warn future generations to never repeat those mistakes. I believe that instead of shunning illness and avoiding medicine, it is better to take history as a reflection. His Highness is the heir apparent, and it is even more imperative that he is well versed in past and present matters, and behaves honestly. Only after learning from the examples of his predecessors can he become exceptional. Hearing this, the prince automatically gave a slight sigh of relief, and he looked up at the emperor. As expected, even though the latter's expression hadn't cleared, he did not become as violently furious as he had before. At this moment, Lin Ying piped up from the side. Your Majesty, this subject did convey your orders to Teacher Tang. I beg that you reinstate my innocence. Who wouldn't have said the same thing? This subject also begs that you reinstate my innocence. Tang Fan said. Chenghua looked at the prince. Who do you believe? The truth has not yet been made clear. Teacher Tang and Lin Ying each gave conflicting statements. If this son hastily draws a conclusion, it will err into subjectivity, so I dare not say. The emperor's brow furrowed. His anger had come quick, and left just as quick. When it came to this kind of this one said this and that one said this thing, there was no evidence on either side, both were saying that they were innocent and he felt an unending headache. Forget it. The bottom of this will not be reached for a time. The day is late, so this will be discussed tomorrow. You all should retire first. The 3 agreed, bowed, then withdrew together. Orator Lin, stop, the prince called out to Lin Ying, who was about to leave, right as they came out. What is your order, Your Highness? Lin Ying was respectful, as if nothing had happened. Why would you frame Teacher Tang? Dare I ask, how long has this subject served at your side? Lin Ying countered without answering. You have followed me ever since I went to study in the cabinet. Then, this subject will have the audacity to ask how long has teacher Tang been instructing you? The prince choked on his words. Tang Fan looked at him coldly, knowing that with how Lin Ying had inverted black and white before the emperor, the young prince could never be his opponent. Seeing that the prince wasn't answering, Lin Ying said, "Our forebears once said that clothes are better new but friends are better old. This subject has served you for several years, and my loyalty is well known. Why do you believe him but not me, your highness?" "Orator Lin, you sure are hilarious," Tang Fan said coldly. "Have you not heard that when vipers want to bite someone, they typically lie in wait for a long time, watching their target before they make their move? According to you, every single friend in the world is undyingly loyal, so why did Ho Junji betray Taizong of Tang? All for just fame and profit, no less. I'm just wondering this, which type are you after, Orator Lin?" He hadn't wanted to gripe with Lin Ying here, but tonight's incident was a real, unmitigated disaster. Even if the Buddha was here, there would be fire, and Tang Fan was no saint, he couldn't keep down his ridicule forever. Unexpectedly, Lin Ying was the same type of person. Hearing that, he answered, "Whatever type you are after is whatever type I am after. Paths that don't align will not conspire together. Why am I hearing something about a gentleman conspiring with a peon?" Tang Fan replied placidly. Saying so, he quit speaking to Lin Ying, turning to cup his hands at the prince. "This subject has some words I would like to share with you, your highness. Please step off to the side." The prince gave Lin Ying a look. The latter wasn't going to shamelessly insist upon listening in, immediately cupping his hands and withdrawing. "Your highness, what happened tonight was set up by the other group step by step, fastened link by link. I'm afraid that planning began from the moment when I was assigned to be an East Palace tutor. As of right now, further complaints would be of no use." Tang Fan had been thinking up of countermeasures following the confrontation with the emperor. Those who know the truth are aware. I don't want to argue on my own behalf anymore, but Lin Ying is someone you must be guarded against. He looked at the prince. "I am not saying this for my own sake. You should know this, your highness." Truthfully, Lin Ying had acted overly collected, and no matter what his status or motive was, there had not been a single reason at all for him to frame Tang Fan. This was why, despite the crowned prince knowing that Tang Fan had very likely been accused unjustly logically, he still couldn't help but waver emotionally. Upon hearing Tang Fan's statement, he felt slightly ashamed. "It was me that was useless, unable to clear your name." Tang Fan laughed. "That isn't important. This subject is insignificant in power, so their aim was not actually me. After this, I surmise that someone will use this to speak to His Majesty and claim that snakes are mixed in with the dragons at your side, who will inevitably hold back your studies and mislead you. They will submit a request for him to reshuffle your instructors in order to eliminate those that are genuinely loyal to you, causing your voice in the court to be completely cut off." The prince was terrified at that. "What should I do, then?" Tang Fan shook his head. "There is no need to do anything. Doing more makes more mistakes, doing less makes less mistakes. Keep watch for the clouds to part and reveal the moon's brightness. Those loyal to you will keep you in mind regardless. If I bear the blame, or the other teachers get removed from their teaching positions, it would be best for you to not come forth." "Has it really reached such a serious plight?" the boy asked, hesitant. "This subject hopes not, to. If it isn't, that would also be best. Unfortunately, after this, I'm afraid that I will not be able to continue teaching you. Please forgive me." Saying so, he cupped his hands, making a deep bow towards the prince. Tears in his eyes, the prince tightly clutched his hand. "I'm sorry, Teacher Tang. I believe you. I should not have doubted you alongside him. Please take care, there will be a day." Tang Fan gripped his arm back, tightening to stop the prince's following words. What happens after will be discussed after. Real gold does not fear forging by fire. As I am innocent, I can pay no mind to any suspicion. Your hesitation just means that you have fond feelings. What's the crime in that? Protect yourself, Your Highness. I will take my leave from here. What needed to be said had been said. This was not a place to remain in for long, and he said no more, immediately taking his leave. The night's darkness was vast. Tang Fan's figure quickly vanished into it. After evening came, the forbidden city would look to be beyond vacuous. Lanterns glinted like stars in the distance, yet they couldn't light up such an enormous area. The crowned prince stood there blankly, only feeling an extreme loneliness. Meanwhile, Tang Fan left the palace under the guidance of an attendant, then sighted Wang Zhi, who was impatiently waiting outside the gates. Not waiting for Tang Fan to come forth, he hurriedly walked forward a few steps. I heard that you angered His Majesty. No secrets were to be had in the palace. As early as when the emperor had flown into a thunderous rage, the news had already reached Wang Zhi's ears. Tang Fan concealed nothing, giving a rough explanation of what had happened. After hearing it all, Wang Zhi's face was quite unsightly, yet he couldn't reproach Tang Fan for his brusque words. In these circumstances, Tang Fan reacting calmly would have instead caused people to be suspicious. On top of that, he was the one that had originally suggested that Tang Fan accept the position. Now that something had happened, it could only be said that those that wanted them downtrodden were too cunning. Wang Zhi had never expected that they would think to get at the crowned prince by getting something on Tang Fan. I asked around about this, Wang Zhi said. This is related to Consort Wan. Tang Fan was puzzled. What happened? She had people lecture her on history one day, and when she heard the Suanwu Gate part, she felt it to be too bloody. Fearing that the young prince would be affected by it, she proposed to His Majesty that it should be skipped over, but you got caught by Lin Ying. Tang Fan smiled bitterly. Such a thing went on? No wonder His Majesty got so furious. I might as well be justly dead. Wang Zhi was quiet. With how obedient the emperor was to Lady Wan, even the shady deaths of princes would not be investigated. Moreover, the consort had only asked after the crown prince's studies. Although she did not have the empress title, she was an empress in reality, and in the emperor's eyes, there was nothing unsuitable about this. To be honest, this game might have already been set starting from Consort Wan's proposal, meaning Tang Fan had been destined to be unfortunate. Wang Zhi's feelings towards Consort Wan were quite complex. No matter what outsiders thought of her, without her, there would be no him today. Everyone else could be ungrateful in the face of grace. He alone could not. Even if he turned hostile with the Wan group, it was aimed only at the group, not involving her at all. In his mind, she was very special. Tang Fan had no intent to make things hard for him. This wasn't your fault. No one could have expected it. You don't need to blame yourself too much. Wang Zhi side-eyed him. Why are you being so over-invested? When have I ever blamed myself? Right. In eunuch Wang's life motto, there was likely self-confidence, self-conceit and self-inflated ego, but there was no self-blame. He was speechless for a short time before continuing. His Majesty has rarely ever killed major subjects after ascending, so I certainly won't lose my head over this. At most, I'll suffer a bit of a beating or be dismissed. This wouldn't be the first time, anyways. The most pressing matter is for me to trouble you with letting Huayan know about this. The crowned prince has one Lin Ying planted beside him, so I'm not sure if a second Lin Ying is around. Huayan cares for His Highness, and he will surely know what to do. Wang Zhi hummed. I understand. Go back, I'll do all I can to turn this around for you. Tang Fan merely cupped his hands. Everyone was familiar with each other, so there was no need for excess words, everything going unsaid. After this event, despite the emperor not immediately calling for Tang Fan to be dealt with, he could no longer so thick-facedly enter the palace. He didn't even go to the inspectorate, remaining home for self-reflection. According to standards, a manifest of self-defense, apology and something like that was to be sent up, the wording inside of the memorial to be contrary to that night's ferocity, having tactful language and speaking of his own past, from his start as a palace honorate, to his midway dismissal and renewal. All of it had been a sea of divine mercy, he had put his all into it, and had not yet had enough time to give back to the county and display his loyalty. How could he ever knowingly do wrong, and have unfathomable motives? Tang Fan did follow the normal procedure of send the memorial through the Office of Transmissions, which would then pass the memorial to the cabinet, which would finally present it to the emperor. On the contrary, he had Suizhou to bring it directly into the palace for the emperor to view. Of course, if the emperor knew that Master Tang, whose every word in the memorial wept with blood, who itched to mutilate himself to portray his innocence, was presently at home, happily gnawing on saucy bones, who knew what he would be feeling? Just as Tang Fan had predicted, after this, the Wan group really did use the excuse of snakes are mixed in with dragons in the East Palace, benevolent and mixed in, and your majesty should deal with this as soon as possible, lest the prince's lessons be held up, requesting that the emperor replace those around the crowned prince. The emperor still wasn't sure who between Lin Ying and Tang Fan was actually lying. In his opinion, the prince's attendants were indeed of errant minds, so he agreed. From that point on, apart from those former cabinet great scholars that still had their names, not only were the East Palace tutors all purged, but even the Court of Education's group was. Because Xie Qian had a good friendship with Tang Fan, he was also included, but Huai'an later spoke to the emperor, which allowed him to keep being a tutor for the crown prince. Even so, after this disturbance, the crowned prince's power and morale was heavily hit, and he likely wouldn't have the power to contend with the Wan group for the time being. The group had not been able to pull him off from his horse, but they had achieved their goal of clipping his wings. It was unclear whether Tang Fan was lucky or unlucky, but before the emperor could deal with him, something big happened in Suzhou. End of Arcade. The 14th year of Chenghua. Arc 9, The Case of Suzhou. Chapter 110. Soft outside, tough inside. The case originated from the 18th year of Chenghua, specifically in the period between last year's spring and autumn. For several consecutive months, there had been no rain, and many fields had become barren, the crops running out and withering one after the other. That alone was not much, as Suzhou Prefecture had always been wealthy and had ample of food reserves, able to endure several months of famine. However, during the spring to fall transition of this year, harsh rainfall had abruptly come down, causing Lake Tai to disastrously overflow. This time, not only had the fields been unable to yield a thing, but the citizens' houses had all been submerged in water. The flood waters had not receded for a long while, leading to the propagation of disease in a very heavy tragedy. The court had ordered Suzhou Prefecture to open its granaries for disaster relief and ordered South Zhili's patrolling censor to aid with surveying from nearby. Following the course of one winter, the situation logically should have taken a good turn. According to the rules, after the event's completion, the court would have to dispatch another censor to conduct a review, then report the results of the disaster relief. This was for the sake of preventing collusion between local officials to deceive the court, which was justifiable. However, at this time, a public case broke out. The South Zhili patrolling censor and county magistrate of Wujiang had sent memorials denouncing each other, one after the other. The censor, Yang Ji, denounced the magistrate Chen Luan for ineffectual disaster relief, while the magistrate argued that he had done everything within his power. It was just that the money and provisions coming from up above hadn't been enough, that even a clever wife would find it hard to cook without rice. His implication was that his counterpart was standing up and just saying things, yet his back wasn't hurting from work. Both sides each had their own statements, refusing to come to an agreement. The court had ordered that the prefectural magistrate of Suzhou, Hu Wenzhou, have to send a statement, but he expressed that he knew nothing of the situation, and stated that not long after Wujiang and other areas had been flooded, the prefecture had opened its granaries, so that reasonably should have been enough for disaster relief. However, his argument was much too weak and powerless. It didn't prove his own innocence, it just made the court think that he was shirking his responsibilities. On the basis of these memorials alone, the truth was very difficult to see. At this point, the patrolling censor, the county magistrate and the prefectural magistrate had separate stories, making it impossible to determine the truth. After the cabinet discussed it, it requested the emperor's confirmation, as its ultimate decision was to have a censor from the inspectorate go out to investigate the disaster situation, and clarify right from wrong while he was at it. Taking this chance, Right Capital Censor Qiu Jun recommended Tang Fan. Within this, there was no small amount of his desire to keep his young disciple far away from the turmoil in the capital and temporarily shunning the attention from him. It was currently difficult for Tang Fan to make any moves in the capital, and he was just wasting time around. It would be better for him to walk around more outside, as that might get him a change of fortune. The Chenghua emperor quickly consented to this. Maybe, in his view, Tang Fan's expertise laid within investigation of cases, as opposed to teaching the crowned prince. Now that an unsolved case had shown up somewhere, he hadn't needed anyone else's reminder. The first one in his head had been Tang Fan. In Tang Fan's own opinion, this was both a good and a bad thing. The good thing was that even the emperor had to concede that he was a competent official. Unlike other ones that were lackluster and replaceable at any time, Tang Fan had a genuine field of use. The bad thing was that the emperor's impression of him had stagnated. Being competent didn't mean one was virtuous. To be able to govern the country peacefully, a higher official needed to have both talent and virtue. In other words, every day this emperor was in power was another day that Tang Fan wouldn't be joining the cabinet. Still, having said that, he was not alone in being so unlucky. Many people, on account of having opposed the Yuan group or been unable to tolerate its tyranny, had suffered relocation or dismissal, and he was simply one of them. It made no difference to add or subtract him, with the sheer number of them all, and it was only because he had foiled the group several times that it even wanted to single him out. Compared to the worries and discontent others had, he could think open-mindedly. With a decree, he packed his things fittingly in preparation to head for the south. However, a minor mishap happened for this trip. Amongst the bodyguards accompanying him out of the capital, it was not the inseparable Suizhou from before, nor was there a single familiar face from the Jinyue. The good relationship between Tang Fan and the Northern Administrative Court Division was something many knew, while some didn't wish to see him and the Jinyue walk too closely. Hence was why Tang Fan had left accompanied by 2 Eastern Depot wardens instead, under the beautified name of protection, but as for whether it was actually for protection or surveillance, was something only the heavens knew. On the day of their departure, Tang Fan brought Qian San'er with him and arrived at the city gate early. However, they waited and waited until the sky broke daylight and even the tea hut nearby opened for business, yet no Eastern Depot silhouettes were seen. Tang Fan had always known these big oafs like to put on big airs, but he hadn't expected those airs to be so big, that they would even regard an imperial assignment as unimportant due to relying on Shangming's support. With nothing to be done about this, he ordered tea at the tea hut and ate while he waited. It came to be noon. The depot people were way past overdue. When they saw him, they dashed over to bow, smiles across their faces. "We didn't know you came early, sir. We hope you can forgive us for coming late." Tang Fan lightly smiled. "You didn't come late. It was I that came early." The two exchanged looks. They could have come here earlier but had instead gone to eat breakfast at a place not too far from the city gate for over half a shishan. They had predicted that this would anger Tang Fan, yet he was instead bearing with it. "Your magnanimity is something we subordinates are greatly thankful for," the two gratefully replied. "After we leave the capital, will be bearing the responsibility of an imperial assignment and thus be crowded onto the same ship. You two don't need to be polite with me. This is nothing more than us meeting for the first time and familiarizing ourselves." The two affirmed, then introduced themselves. One was Zhengpei, the other Wu Zhong, and the two of them were Eastern Depot wardens. Such wardens specialized in arrest and interrogation, and were the most commonly seen position in the depot. They were here, yet Tang Fan was in no rush, inviting them to sit down for tea, then leave after having lunch. Now, it was they that couldn't sit still, repeatedly urging for him to get on the road and admitting their faults over and over again, saying that they shouldn't have been late. Only then did he have horses reined in preparation to get on the road. At exactly that moment, someone called out behind him to stop him. He turned his head back to see Meng Xi, a Chenghua from the Jinyue, galloping over on a quick horse, nearly coming to be in front of the tea hut before he stopped. Not even glancing at Zhengpei and Wu Zhong, he requested that Tang Fan come to the side. "It's good that I caught up, Sir Tang. Brother told me to give you this." He passed over an object. "This is a token of correspondence. After you arrive at Suzhou Prefecture, if you have any issues, you can seek help from the Jinyue post in Wu County." Tang Fan was taken aback and was forced to ask, "Where is your brother? Why didn't he come?" For some reason, ever since Suzhou had nicked his jade pendant, the man's attitude had gotten even worse than before as he became somewhat indifferent. Tang Fan couldn't wrap his head around it. Lately, Tang Fan had not only been busy presenting memorials defending himself but Suzhou had been similarly busy. Despite living under the same roof, they weren't as close as they used to be. Human nature was a rotten thing. Suzhou had pressed in close by steps at the start and Tang Fan had retreated by steps. Now the man had completely let him go and Master Tang only felt frustration as if he lost something. Like this time, for instance, after Tang Fan's trip out of the capital had been decided, Suzhou had not expressed anything whatsoever, not even bringing it up, as if he didn't care at all. Tang Fan had asked if he would be going with him but he said that since many knew of his relationship with the Jinyue, for the sake of avoiding suspicion, the emperor would not agree to have the Jinyue go south with him this time. Even with that, he didn't get to see the man's figure upon his departure, which was rather alienating and much too unpleasant. Meng Xi cupped his hands. He was ordered to go to the battalions today, which he had to leave from a different gate for. Time was tight, which was why he didn't have any chance to see you off, having me take his place. Please take care on your journey, Sir Tang. Sir Sui has been pretty busy lately, to have not been showing his face as much, Qian San'er couldn't help but mutter beside him. Concealing the odd feeling in his heart, he ignored Qian San'er to smile at Meng Xi. "You've been troubled with coming over." "Thank you." Noticing the looks of impatience that Zhengpei and Wu Zhong had, Tang Fan drawled on in idle chatter with Meng Xi, until Wu Zhong had to implore him. "Sir, we should be on the road. Time waits for no one and we need to get on a boat for Tongzhou." They had made him wait before but now, it was time waits for no one. Tang Fan sneered on the inside yet knew that these two had come specially to give him a headache, so he said nothing on it and merely nodding. "Let's go, then." After saying goodbye to Meng Xi, the four left the city, went all the way to Tongzhou, then went through the canals southwards through boat. Going by water was not just faster than by land but it was far steadier as well. If going by land, one would have to stop to seek shelter from rain on rainy days, while boats could simply keep going without obstruction to the journey. As people on an imperial assignment, they were using a government vessel, naturally. It had 2 decks, which was plenty spacious enough for their group and all the boat workers. Tang Fan's room and the warden's room happened to be on opposing ends of the second deck, leaving them with no need to pass by each other's rooms to come and go. They all happened to be at loggerheads to begin with, so this avoided the misery of having to see each other's faces on the daily. The ship sailed down with the currents, its speed incomparably better than that of land travel. Qian San'er had seldom ever stepped into the South's haunts and saw that all along the way, the scenery of both shores differed from everyday stuff, mist like willows, painting like bridges, stylish banners, and jade green drapes. The people on the shores were especially so, as he could occasionally see peasant girls carrying clothes to the riverside for laundry, all grouped up and talking and laughing merrily. Their figures were soft, clothes were thin, and looks vibrant, completely different from the bold and bright makeup of the north. He looked on, dumbstruck, eyes unable to turn away. When they came to Yangzhou, night was about to fall and travel by boat was no longer recommended. The vessel moored at the shore alongside some civilian vessels of all sizes, as they would leave after evening passed. It was almost dusk, yet at the shoreline, there was still a young girl calling out that she was selling fresh flowers. Hearing her, Tang Fan had Qian San'er invite her on board. She was around Dong's age. Having seen the government vessel, she could guess a thing or two about their status and beamed at them. "Will you buy flowers, mister? These ones were picked today. Looking at water and trees the whole journey is boring, it would be better to stick a few flowers in your cabin to liven it up a bit." She was eloquent in speech, with a soft and suave accent. Qian San'er went mute hearing it. "These are ginger lilies?" Tang Fan asked. She let out a gasp. "They are. They smell nice. Can you smell them, mister?" With that, she raised her basket up. There was really no need for her to do that, as ginger lilies had strong scent, the pungent odor able to be smelled from getting only slightly close to them. The opinion of the nearby Qian San'er might be that the flowers had no intoxicating aroma, but the person herself did. Tang Fan smiled. "Hearing your accent, are you from Suzhou?" "I am." "Why did you come to Yangzhou? Is Suzhou no good?" She lightly creased her furrowed brows, seemingly a bit uncomfortable. "I'll buy the basket of flowers," he continued. "How much?" The girl immediately brightened up. "Not much. 10 coins will do." "San'er, give her 5 coins." She opened her limpid eyes up wide, seemingly wondering how she had come across such a cheapskate. He laughed. "Don't worry, I'm about to head to Suzhou, and I'm not too familiar with the place. I happen to have some questions to ask you." The girl was relieved. After getting the money Qian San'er handed over, she brightly asked, "What do you want to know, mister? Suzhou is such a good area. Why are you not there but in Yangzhou? My home was next to Lake Tai. Last year, there first came a drought, then a massive flood, which wiped out my family. Grandpa brought me to Yangzhou to seek shelter with relatives, and they're not wealthy, so I'm selling flowers to help Grandpa earn more of a living." "Where was your Suzhou home located?" "Wujiang." "Was the flood there heavy? Has it still not improved at this point? Did your grandpa not think to bring you back to see it?" She shook her head, sadness across her features. "My family all starved to death. I was almost sold by my father, but Grandpa protected me and didn't let him. Grandpa and me are doing great in Yangzhou, we don't need to go back." He asked some more questions relating to the disaster, but the other was young and didn't know much, only able to speak of what she had seen along the road. According to her, it had been truly miserable in Wujiang last year. Following the flood, it had kanji stations set up at government institutions, but there had been too many people and not enough kanji, quickly leading to the demand exceeding the supply. In order to grab that watery kanji to eat, many murders had even taken place. While even less people had kanji to eat, what had come next were plagues, death and illness. After winter had come, the spread of the plague had finally eased a little, but with the freezing weather, the vagrant commoners had suddenly started freezing and starving to death in high numbers. Many families had gradually used up their previous food stores, the situation turning increasingly dire, and those without means for further survival had sold their own children, some even straight up cooking them to eat. Hearing that part, it was not only Jian San'er that was horror-struck but even Tang Fan's brows twitched, showing a faint trace of anger. Is what you said the truth? The girl bit her bottom lip. I dunno. Grandpa told me about the cannibalism part, but father wanting to sell me was real. I heard it with my own ears. What about now? Is Wujiang any better? She shook her head, repeating that she didn't know. She hadn't returned since she had left with her grandpa, so it was natural that she wouldn't know. Tang Fan wasn't going to make things hard for her, and after a few more words, he had her go. As soon as she left, Jian San'er started, Sir, Wujiang. Tang Fan slightly raised his hand, indicating for him not to speak. Jian San'er immediately went on the alert, turning his head to discover that Zhang Pei and Wu Zong had been standing beside them all this time. It's hard to spend the night outside of Yangzhou City. Why don't you two go into it and see what's fun? Tang Fan called out to them with a slight smile. Zhang Pei smiled back. You live quite the carefree life, Sir Tang. Those flowers are short of being pretty and they have a plainer color. Tang Fan passed the basket to Jian San'er. They would either be fragrant, or they would be beautiful. There is no such thing as having both in this world, but getting the height of one aspect isn't too bad. The other laughed. You sure are a scholar, and great wisdom comes with every opening of your mouth. Coarse men like us are no match. However, you're not too familiar with what's going on with Suzhou, and this subordinate has some things to discuss with you beforehand, lest you take a winding path and hit roadblocks. Tang Fan reached out his hand in a gesture of please do. Be frank with your words, Brother Zheng. With your knowledge, sir, how is the Suzhou case to be investigated? Tang Fan raised a brow. You two mean to instruct me? What are you saying, sir? How could we instruct you? The case already had the patrolling sensor on it before, so there likely won't be any major blockades. The court having you and us come down to recheck is nothing more than a stroll through the scene, then a question for a result. The Suzhou region has been wealthy since ancient times, and is an important ground for national grains taxes. If there is too much of a fuss, the court's reputation will have no luster. Do you understand my meaning, sir? These two were Tang Fan's subordinates in name and bore the responsibility of protecting him, yet they figured that with the Eastern Depot's backing, they could not only snub him at the start but even completely disregard him on the trip. They had long been hearing that while Tang Fan held the name of an imperial ambassador going on a patrol, the truth of it was that he was in an exile situation. They had no belief that he would dare to contend with the Eastern Depot, so these words were softness carrying steel, containing menace both overt and covert. Their intent was to warn him that water here was deep, and to not investigate at random, else the ending would be difficult to sort out, and people that shouldn't be offended would be offended. Many thanks for your very precious words, brothers, but there is something I'm not clear on. Please state it. Is the phrase a stroll through the scene your idea, or the court's? Zhang Pei was speechless for a moment, face slightly dark. What do you mean, sir? If that is the court's will, then I will follow it, though I don't really understand, Tang Fan answered calmly. His Majesty and the court's ideas were both to have me find out the truth. Why did that idea distort when it came to you? Did His Majesty issue different confidential orders to the Eastern Depot? We gave you a friendly warning. Zhang Pei raged. Why are you twisting each and every aspect of our goodwill? Tang Fan laughed. I do understand your goodwill. However, someone that understands the truth would say that you two are treating me well, while someone that didn't would likely think that you're impeding the way I handle the case. That getting out and affecting Director Shang's reputation would probably bring 100 losses without one gain, your good hearts resulting in something terrible that would only cause calamity for your director. Ever since the capital, the two had deliberately menaced Tang Fan, yet had earned the opposite result, getting schemed against by him instead. While interacting on the road, they had also found that Censor Tang was not easy to contend with, even more difficult to handle than those who only knew how to curse them unto their deaths. The man's speech and conduct shunned neither gentleness nor toughness, and he would inconceivably turn hostile, making one that wanted to poke at his shortcomings have nothing to poke at. It was little wonder as to why their director viewed him as an important target to be defended against, and had ordered them to pay extra attention to him. They had believed that the other's investigative process would at least be a little more discreet than those hard heads, where he would know that some things couldn't be done at random and some people couldn't be provoked, but now, it seemed like they had been laughably incorrect. How was he any different than those above-board officials? He was exactly like them, downright to the bone, only a little more cunning. End chapter.